There we go. Hey, guys.
Hey.
There we are.
Hey, friends.
Hi, how are
Hey,
you?
y'all. What's
We're
going
good.
on?
I'm gonna try to scoot over a little bit. Okay, there I go.
There we go.
We have to be like close to our spouses.
Right, it's
Hard.
I know we got to.
weird. No.
What's up?
Hey, thanks for doing this, guys.
For sure.
Whoa.
Hold on. Can you guys hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're good.
Rayshawn's being an old guy.
Almost.
Yes.
You can't hear.
Oh, I can hear. I didn't know if you can hear.
Wait, I think we're older than you guys, though.
Yeah, technically.
Possibility.
That's really-
It got real crickety. No,
Jenny was like,
me and Jenny, we're forever young.
You guys are 90s babies, aren't you?
No, I'm the last year of the 80s.
89.
86.
He's like
Woo.
mid-80s.
Mid-80s.
Woo. Dang, Cory.
It's only 3 years. You're 34 for 31.
Almost. Yeah.
Fun fact before we get it jumping, Rayshawn
Yeah.
thought he was 30 this year. He was
I did.
so serious like 2 weeks ago.
I was heartbroken.
He
when
kept saying, I'm 30.
I thought I was 30. I'm 31.
And I kept saying, you're 31. So the guy that we were talking to, he thought it was a joke. He's like, well, I'm young forever too.
I
I'm
was,
like,
I was
no,
heartbroken.
this is not a joke. Like,
I went through a midlife crisis when I found out I was 30.
for
when I said
7
30.
days. It was crazy.
It's hilarious.
It's really unfortunate.
I mean, after you hit 30, it doesn't matter anymore anyway.
I know.
It's not so much after you hit 30, it's when you have babies. Then
That's true. That's true.
it just,
That's the truth.
yeah.
That's big fact.
I got a torn meniscus over here, back issues, joint issues. I'm good. Lord have mercy.
He lightweight sprained his foot yesterday.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a lot going on in these 30s. I don't know what's
Lord,
happening.
Wow.
Anywho,
Help
It
us.
happens.
The Lord is testing us. Anyhow.
truly, all 2020, all 2020.
2020.
It's
For
It's
real.
been a year.
It's been rough.
Truly,
Wow.
to say the least.
So do your little introduction and then we can.
All right, so I'm gonna save this and then put it on YouTube later. So I'll do like a little intro
Okay.
for people who are not watching live right now. So if you're watching live, pretend that we're starting now.
Yes.
Hello. I'm sorry because we're probably late, but anywho.
It's It's 9:07. You're fine because no one was watching for like 5 minutes anyway.
She was late. It's cool.
It's
yeah,
fine.
I thought it was on Facebook, but nevertheless, Trent.
Well, we've had some problems too.
Is that Miles?
Yes,
What's
got
he's not in bed
long.
yet.
He is big, man.
I know. He's a
Us
big
too.
boy.
We had to put Bailey to bed.
Hey, man. What's
Wow,
up?
Miles, you are so tall.
He's supposed to be in bed and he's not.
It's
Fine.
yeah, it's 9
I
o'clock.
feel you.
I
My
know.
kids are in the bed, man.
Bailey's mad right now because
Right, Jenny.
Bailey's mad because Rayshawn put her to sleep. But anyway, right now as we
Had to.
speak. Anywho,
Anyway, okay. Thank you for joining us and for helping us with this. I don't expect you guys to have all the answers or to be experts in anything,
Thank you.
but we just want to talk about your experience because we don't have that experience, and we just want to learn more than we teach. So for me to teach this later, I'd like to learn from you guys who have maybe experienced some things that we haven't.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
also acknowledge that it's not your responsibility to teach us,
Right.
and yet you've been gracious enough to have awkward and difficult conversations with us, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah, you guys are very good to us. So thank you.
truly, we love you.
It is mutual.
It's true. We love you too.
For those that are going to join, we've been friends for maybe like about at least 2 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we are very much so the kind of friends that we can joke, we can talk.
Mhm.
We talk about our race. We are aware that they are a white couple and we are black. I mean,
Yeah.
we're very much aware
Hey, why?
that, yeah.
Nah.
It's the lighting.
Yeah.
Right.
So we get along very well. So we just want to just say that. I just want to start with that, and I appreciate the fact that we can have those conversations that might feel awkward to other people or
Yeah, for sure.
whatever it might be, that we really are able to just be together, hang out, and
Yeah.
it not be about anything else besides the fact that we like each other. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I just want to start with that as you guys say what you're saying.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
our peeps.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christian.
You guys,
Yeah.
just like Jenny said, you guys are so gracious to us. I mean, I called Rayshawn last week to talk about this, and he's
She's
so,
like, "You're good.
he's
You're
like,
good."
"You're
We're like,
fine."
"We're not good."
I'm like, I'm
You're
not.
good. We're like, "No,
I
we're
heard.
we're not good."
I was like, Cory, you're fine, man.
But I appreciate it, and I'm glad you guys are doing this with us because I wouldn't know who else to talk to about it. So
Yeah.
it's good to have you.
Yeah.
I think we were
So
the perfect
let's
fit.
start. What's that?
I said I think we were the perfect fit. So
I think so.
Yeah.
So let's start with how are you guys doing right now with all the tension going on in Cleveland? How have you guys been talking about it in your community, or what's been going on?
I'll let you start.
Well, we've been talking about it at the job at Cleveland Clinic, the spiritual care department. This has been an ongoing conversation. I'm still trying to process, where I stand in this. To me, today I was very nonchalant. We talked about it today at work over the phone, over the conference call. And why am I nonchalant? I think it's because for me, as a Black male, this is my reality. So it's not a shocker. It's unfortunate, but it's not really a shocker for me. So I've just learned how to, cope and be in a system and kind of do, climb the ladder. I know how to do it. I know how to be in this system of race and how to make it work for me. So today I was just kind of nonchalant about it. My white colleagues, they are hurt. They are, they're asking me, what can we do? That's what I keep hearing.
That's good.
And, my response is, I'm not an expert, but I think my natural response is really, besides I'm not an expert, I think it's self-work. It's self-work. And we can't skip that. We can't skip our assumptions, white and Black. But as white people, you can't skip your assumptions, your biases, how being raised as white means certain privileges. And it's that inner work and it's that self-work that you can't skip over and jump to social action. Because the social action won't be sincere, it won't be effective enough if you don't deal with the inner work of what it means to be a white male and female in America with privileges.
No, it's trendy. Then it's just a trending topic, and it's not real work.
Yeah,
it's not real work. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. We're good. We're safe here in South Euclid. But it's unfortunate. It bothers me, but I'm not shocked because this is what it means to be Black in America, unfortunately. So
that's sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've had like so many different feelings, and it just has kind of like a snowball effect. Like it's like they're just adding and adding and adding. And a lot of things is like half of it I feel like saddened because it is, my reality. And then the other half of me feels like, okay, how can I see a change, or what can I do that makes a change? And the only thing I keep coming back to is that the change that I want to see has to start with me. It has to start with how I raise my kids, how I deal with my own community, like right where I live, how I deal with my friends and my family, and how do I teach my children that it's not about what race and who's superior. It's just really all about the love that's within people. Like, you got to be attracted to people who are healthy, who are loving, who are, who want the best for you. And that has nothing to do with what color their skin is. And I just think that I keep coming back to that part, because everything else, it just saddens my heart. Because, I mean, the reality is that being Black in America means that you're viewed a certain way off top, for certain people. You just are, and it's nothing I can do. I cannot change the color of my skin. I can't, what can I can't do any of that. So what do I do? And I think that I just keep coming to the point in my own mind of be the change I want to see and be a light in my community and in the people that I come into contact with every day that I know and that I don't know. Because I don't have to be what society says my particular race is supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I can start there.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's what about y'all?
Yeah, we Cory, I would say, we keep talking about doing this work, and Cory has been doing this work longer than I have, and all of the conversations you guys have had with your white loved ones over the last since you were born, and mostly over the last week, has been like, well, duh, you have to do work. Like, obviously, just because you say you're not racist, like, that doesn't actually do anything.
No.
And yet here we are, like, finally arriving to it. I started reading this one book like 3 weeks ago, and it's not even a book about race. It's one of my favorite authors, and she has just like a really small chapter. She's a white woman, and she has a really small chapter on just basically like she calls it her unlearning, when her unlearning began. And I remember I read the chapter to Cory, and I was like, so we've been like kind of sleepwalking through this as white privileged individuals. And again, the whole idea of privilege is it doesn't discount any of the trauma or anything you've been through. Like, everyone has their experiences, but man, there is like, you are either privileged or you are not privileged, even in your trauma.
Yeah.
And like, I know that as a therapist, and I know that as a white woman, but like, it was, I keep telling Cory, like, there was almost this like second chamber, third or fourth chamber that popped up in my head, and it was like the same idea of this chamber that like opened when Cory and I started working through the LGBTQ stuff. It was like an awareness of your ignorance, and an awareness of all of the unintentional ways, which there's still ownership there, but all of the unintentional ways that you've added to the negative narrative. And unless you look for it, you don't find it. So that's what you're talking about, Rayshawn, is doing the work. If you're not looking for it, you can do your Blackout Tuesday, you can do all of this stuff, and it's this very sweet sentiment. And
but then tomorrow nothing changes.
Yeah.
So I feel grateful that whatever reason, obviously there's, God had given me this book, and I read it when I did, and I'm grateful for it, because I feel like I'm years behind, and yet this like chamber opened, and then when everything kind of hit the fan, which it hit the fan for white people, didn't hit the fan for you guys, because like you're saying, Rayshawn and Kristian, like, this is not uncommon.
Right.
In your community. I just feel like I've looked at it differently. I've looked at choosing my ignorance for years when I thought I wasn't. And so seeing that, and a lot of our conversations with our white friends who are really doing the work, are talking about how awkwardly we're moving through being aware of, how we've contributed to it.
But what you just said was huge, Jeni, about, being aware of your ignorance and biases. That's a huge step in, how to deal with this type of stuff. A lot of people can't even face, their biases and being raised in racist, unconscious ways.
Right.
Sure.
So nobody wants to look at that. And so to even say it, that's huge. That's a huge step. And I appreciate that. To me, that's real work, though. That's the beginning of the real work.
Yeah, that's where it starts for sure. And we now so we've been doing that in our own lives, even before everything happened last week. And that's when I called you this past week and said, what can I do now? Because I haven't arrived in any sense of, I haven't figured anything out, but like, I've been doing some of the work on myself, and now I feel ready to like do something. Like, I want to be involved in something. And like we talked on the phone, I don't want to start something because there's already so many things already happening by great Black leaders. I don't need to be the white guy that starts a racist, anti-racist movement.
And also, if you're doing that, then it's your privilege back again. Like,
Exactly.
It's just like this hamster wheel of, well, I'm white, so I know it. Like, let me tell you what it's like to be Black from my white perspective.
Yeah.
So you know what? this is a good segue into, I want to read a quote from Robin DiAngelo, and she wrote the book White Fragility.
Oh,
White
yeah.
Fragility.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So she said, when we understand racism as a system that we have been raised in, and that its impact is inevitable, it's really not a question of good or bad. It's just, I have it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been socialized into it. And so what am I going to do about it is really the question. And that's where I think maybe some guilt can come in. This is her talking. This is where some guilt can come in when you know that, and you're still not going to do anything about it. I don't struggle. This is her talking. I don't struggle with this guilt because to the best of my ability, I'm trying to challenge my socialization of being raised in a racist society as a white woman. So let me be clear. As a result of being raised as a white person in this society, I have a racist worldview. I have racist biases. I've developed racist patterns as a result. And I have investments in the system of racism.
Yeah. So
her whole thing was, the whole topic of race as white individuals, it's a fragile topic. It's a fragile thing. It's like a vulnerable place to talk in as white persons. But she's saying that that's part of the racist, system, the racist biases in the first place. That's it, though. She's saying that part is it. And I think it's unconscious in a lot of white people. And of course it would be, because when you're raised, as privileged human beings, you don't know certain things. You don't know the realities of others necessarily. You don't even know your own privilege. And so, but that's okay. It's not even a question for me. It's not a question of, am I racist? Am I evil? No, it's just people have been raised a certain way, unconsciously taught. And it's not about good or bad.
It's our responsibility to unlearn the things in any race, in any, in any situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys have talked about that in your Bible studies, the generational curses and all of that stuff. And there's so much biblical backing of that. It's our responsibility. So we're not, what we're born into is not a choice. Right. And yet our responsibility begins and ends with what our response is going to be with the circumstances that we've been given. So white people and other people who are privileged, don't maybe understand the depths, and we never will, to be fair, never will fully understand the depths of our privilege, but yet it's our responsibility to try and figure out, how that plays a role in how we spend money and how we view people walking down the road, in how we talk about people when they're not around. I mean, it's everything, right? It touches all of the things that all the decisions we make in a day, the thousands of decisions we make. So you're right, Rayshawn, but it's still our responsibility to do it, so we haven't chosen it. I didn't choose to be born in Geauga County, Ohio to two white parents, but yet
here it is.
Here it is.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that as I'm listening to his excerpt and what you said about unlearning, I think everybody has to unlearn.
Oh,
now,
for sure.
I know that all of this is like on 10 because of what happened to George Floyd, but I'm going to just say, Black people, we can be racist too. And it's a culture thing, and it's to each side. So when I say that, I mean, like, we don't always, I'm about to explain that. So like, no, because for real, I mean, I have to talk what's on my mind. And it's like, for one, we don't always know how to relate to white people, to anything that's not us either. Like, meaning as sometimes, because we don't know how, we don't even like to make friends with outside of our race because we don't know how to relate. And so where I'm going with this whole point is that I don't really think it's a color thing versus it's a people thing. So if we teach our sons and our daughters that you only stick with this race and you only stick with what you know, and this is all that, then you're going to just only look at yourself, and you're only going to look at those who are the same race as you, and then you're going to have like this whole view, and you're only going to be in that small box. Y'all kind of understand what I'm saying? What I'm trying
Yeah,
to
oh, totally.
I get it. I guess my only thing would be, can black people be racist? I guess, but the difference would be, babe, because I was struggling with this question today, and the conclusion I came up with for me is, yes, we could be racist, but it's still different.
Definitely.
Because when
Yes.
you're a minority,
Right.
then you got the dominant group that can be racist, and then you got the subgroup of a minority that can be racist or whatever.
Right.
But the difference is that the subpart group has to learn the rules to the dominant culture, and the dominant culture doesn't have to learn the rules of the minority group. So it's not a mutual type of thing.
Right.
And
The
so
power
because
and
of
control.
that inequity, that inequity creates a racist system that it's not a back and forth type of thing. The dominant culture, being a white person, you don't have to learn anything else besides, you're white in America with privileges.
That's true.
But if you're black and you want to be successful, you got to live in two different worlds. You have to learn this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And I think that
That's true.
it's that part to where, that would be my definition of racism. Like, it's not
I like that. Thank you. Because I'm trying to find,
I know.
I'm trying to find the way. You know where I'm going
Yeah, I know
with
what you're
it?
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just been thinking like all day.
I
Like
was thinking about that too.
for days. I've been thinking
Well,
about
and the difference too, I think, and stop me if I'm wrong, because like very well could be, but like lots of cultures have biases and want to stick to their own kind.
Of course.
But your culture didn't have a choice because it was brought here.
Right.
So I don't think we would have this animosity if you guys came here on your own, or if it were like with the Native Americans, if something were different, or if white people weren't evil for a really long time.
That's
like
Right. I mean,
so I think that has a lot to play with it too, is that there's a power dynamic and
control.
has been for 400
That
years.
part
That's good.
is that part. And I think that, we can raise our kids to integrate, of course, as black people, as white people. However, I still feel that at the end of the day, after the integration, being black and white in America is two different realities still.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
for
people
sure.
That's
still,
a fact.
people
That's a
still
fact.
perceive you differently. So the question is, do we really want to integrate into people's stories, into what it means to be black in America, into what it means to be white in America? Do we want to talk about that? Or do we just want to keep it superficial? As
No,
in,
because that's uncomfortable. Let's just post things on Instagram
Thank
and on
you.
social
Thank
media.
you.
Because no, and like I was Austin Channing Brown is one of Cory's favorite authors, and I don't know if you guys follow her, but she's wonderful. She's a black woman, and she's a very, very, very big activist, and she follows Jesus. But she was talking about everything that's going on. She posts 1,000 times a day, and I was reading the comments, and all of these black mothers were talking about the experience of raising their children, but specifically their boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was reading them off to Cory. That is not something that I will ever experience wherever I move in the United States, of being worried about either of my two boys
That's
being arrested. Never. And so even if you're right, integration, we do all that, and yet it's that acknowledgement, you know, like I have to acknowledge as a white woman, I will never know what it's like to be afraid about my kids getting picked up by the cops, ever. It's not even anything that's on my radar. It's not even anything that I can even empathize with to the fullest extent, because I've not experienced it.
Right.
You know, and so that's where there needs to be a validation of, we don't get it, and it's not your responsibility to teach it to us. And also, like, how do we do life together and honor the differences?
Without losing each other's cultures.
Right.
Too.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I guess that obviously there's no blanket solution, and there's no blanket, statement with that. It's individual relationships and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that was another chamber unlocked where I was like, I don't know what it's like to be afraid of my kids being harassed, and I'm not even just talking about police brutality, not anything like that. Just being like worried about
Just anything.
my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just being caught up anywhere.
Yeah. So a black mother prays the moment her black son walks out the door. I mean,
We don't have to worry about that, and that's sad, and it hurts.
and that's the power and control, right? And that's the ignorance. Like, you have to admit that. You have to admit, like, it's not even anything I ever thought about. I never was
Yeah.
worried about having boys. You know, I was just like, great, I'm never gonna have a girl. That's fine. But like, it was never anything outside of that, right? So,
So, if you guys feel comfortable, would you mind sharing a story or an experience where you experienced some inequality, either with, if you want to do police or if you want to do just in general, if you're comfortable with it, you don't have to.
You got one?
Yeah.
I know my wife got stories for days.
No.
Come on, you guys, come on. She be so animated. I love it. Go ahead.
Oh no. Well, yesterday's story was one. Okay.
Oh, with
Uh-oh.
Yes.
that's a fresh one. Do the fresh one.
This is a fresh one. This is on the top of the dome yesterday. Okay, so this is what happened. We got electrical work done at our home, and it was done by a white guy. And so that happened, and it gets hot now, right? So he did the electrical last year, but we never ever have turned on our air conditioner because it's our first summer here. So speed it up. We turn on the air conditioner. It's not working. We had to call an air conditioning company. So I called several companies, but anywho, I got hooked up with an African-American guy who came out finally. So he gets here. He's in the back. He's like, well, your problem is you don't have any electrical back here. So I called the white electrical man who put together the electrical. He comes out, he says, okay, I'm gonna come. If I didn't do it, I'm gonna charge you the service fee. If I did do it, then I won't charge you anything. All right. Now I had to pay a service fee already because if you get something serviced, you have to pay $100 service fee.
For the air conditioner guy.
So I paid the air conditioner guy. The electrical guy comes and, you know, he's going through all this woo-to-woo. I don't like I did it, but then he sees he did it. Now, he never admitted he did it, but he didn't charge. So he did. So Rayshawn comes out. So now the African-American guy, before he left, he was like, you know, y'all should try to get this connect box for free. Like, he should do something because you shouldn't have had to pay for me to do it.
Right.
When he didn't do
his work. He was the issue. That's
and
what
we
we had to
paid
pay
him X amount of $1,000. Okay. So it's not like he was cheap.
$2,400
So,
to be exact.
Anywho.
$2,400 to do the electricity.
He
the whole house for electricity.
So,
Wow.
Rayshawn asked him if he would do the deal, and he proceeds to say, well, no, I can't do anything for free, but I respect you for asking.
I respect you for asking me, but oh no, I can't do anything for free. And so I just said, okay. I smiled at him and said, okay.
Right. I am the kind of person where I let it go because if you do know me, I don't like to get like a lot of confrontation. Like, I will stand up for myself. However, sometimes I just will decide in my mind, I'm just not ever doing business with you again. Now, we called back the African-American company, and he was in outrage. Like, that's not right. And, you know, I'm going to just keep it real. This is a black company. Then, you know.
We would chew them out as black
that's
people.
What he said, you know.
We would chew out the black people. Because we're black. He's right, though.
He was right. He said, you would do this. He was like, but, you know, him, you're not doing that. And you should report him to the BBB. And he owes you this. Like, you shouldn't have to come out your pocket. So now I'm like, you know what? He's right. So Rayshawn called him back. You can finish the story.
He didn't want to answer the phone, so I left a voicemail.
Yeah, he didn't answer the phone.
So, because I work in white America,
he left him a nice, nasty.
I left him a nice, you know, nasty message.
Yeah.
I didn't cuss or anything. I was very straightforward, and I said, you know, this is not good business. You are the reason that we had to pay an air conditioner guy a fee because you didn't hook back up our air conditioner as the electrical person in the first place. And for you to tell me that you can't even, you know, give us our money back or, you know, do the thing for free because you can't do anything for free. I said, that's not right. It's not good business. And I said, I want this to sit on your conscience because you are dead wrong.
He did say that.
Nice. That's good.
I want this to sit on your conscience. And I said,
I want to use that.
Call me back. I know this is going to weigh on you. So he didn't ever call me back.
Never called me.
He texted my wife back and said, do you all have Venmo? I want to cash up your money.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes, he sent that money back.
He did.
Now, mind you, might be because of the George Floyd situation. Maybe that worked in my favor.
I think it was.
Maybe.
Unfortunately. I mean, that's sad, but I think that's what it was.
It could be, yeah.
And he didn't want to start like a big fight.
But I think I told my wife that a lot of times African Americans, they don't know how to channel their anger, their righteous anger, and get productive results from another culture, from a white culture, from a You know, just a different culture. We don't know the language. We don't know how to channel our anger. And so a lot of times we either go off, catch a case, or we say nothing at all.
I.e. me.
And that's ridiculous because it was wrong.
It was.
So because, you know, I kind of learned a little language or whatever, I just gave it to him. You can't do that. You
Right.
can't do that. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, being a minority, you have to learn certain things in order to get what you want. And as a white person, you don't necessarily have to learn another culture to get by and to succeed because
Right.
you're the dominant group.
Because
that
it's
is the
set
difference.
up. It's set up for us.
Exactly.
Right.
And if
Exactly.
we had been a white
shouldn't be.
couple, he would have did it. You know,
Uh-huh.
I don't think he would have been like that, you know, and
Right.
so that was hurtful though. That's another thing yesterday. It had something to do with it because I felt like it shouldn't be like that. I really did feel like that. Like, that's wrong. And I mean, we paid you to do a job. You know, we didn't have a problem paying you or anything like that.
Spent $2,400.
And I think that
Right.
you should just be a person who lives right.
That's just business.
Right.
That's just good business.
We shouldn't have to do that, but that's just the reality of,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
that's just a fresh story on my mind of being Black in America.
Right.
I mean, there was also a time where when I was pregnant with Bailey, I was trying to have a baby shower, and I literally went to a a community center, and she looked at me. I said, "Hello, how are you? I'm looking to get rental fees. I would like to put my baby shower here." And I mean, she just looked at me, and all of a sudden there was no slots available. I was pissed. And the way that she talked to me, I just told her, I said, I would never throw anything here anyways. And I would never give you my money. And I walked out. I mean, that's another one that just came to my mind. But, you know, again, I didn't do anything but walk in there. You know,
Right.
she's older. And I think she just decided, like, all of you are the same, you know.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, I that's how she treated me, because you don't know me. So you had to, I don't know if you had a bad experience or whatever that might be. Because, I mean, I've had bad experience with white people. And that doesn't mean that every white person I'm going to say is,
Right.
they're terrible too. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had bad experiences with police officers, but I've had great experiences with
Right.
police officers too. So, I mean,
You know, for me, I have them every day. It's not like this big one-time external event that I can have that I can just talk about, because I think being Black in America, you have these events every day. You're profiled. You know, as a Black male, you got to figure out how to channel your anger when you're talking to a white male boss or a white male authority, period. You have to know your tone. You got to know your place. These are like the unspoken rules to what it means.
Right.
And so I've never been beat up by cops. I've never been harassed or anything. So I don't have those horrid stories,
Right.
but I have the same basic narrative of what it means to be Black in America, to be profiled, to be discriminated against based on race, and to be stereotyped. And so I got these stories every day. As a Black chaplain,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, I got stories for days. As a young Black chaplain, I can add young, because that's another
Yep.
that's another thing of you're young too, and you're Black, and you're a male. Are you really supposed to be in this line of work? It's a white man's field. So yeah, I've had patients stereotype me, and I've walked in patients' rooms and they thought I was about to convert them because I was a Black chaplain. They thought I was about to preach to them or try to convert them. And I have to like reassure, like, no, I'm not here for that. I'm just here to give you spiritual and emotional support. I'm not here to preach to you at all. So like basic assumptions that people have about me, you know, it's there every day.
yeah.
These basic assumptions that the dominant culture, you all don't have to explicitly look at in the face. You don't have to go down with yourself and just, you know, examine biases.
That's
So,
facts.
yeah.
That's facts.
In Austin Channing's Brown's book, she talks about when she was a kid, she was at the store with her dad, and she had her hands in her pocket, just wasn't thinking about it. And her dad came over and said, "Don't do that. Do never have your hands in your pocket in the store." And that's never something that I would have to worry about. I never had to worry about.
Yeah.
And it's sad. Like,
Well, and they even named her they named her a name that they thought would sound like a white man's name.
so she
for her interviews.
so she could get interviews because
Wow.
on paper she sounds like a white
She
man.
sounds like a white man, yeah.
I named my kids for that exact reason too.
Yeah, Christian and Bailey. Mhm.
That's the reason why I don't have a junior. Rayshawn?
That was a real live conversation,
That is-
and that's sad though.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
shouldn't. You shouldn't have felt like that, and
I
I
did.
shouldn't have felt like that.
I did.
I was like, no,
Right.
yeah. And that's terrible.
I feel like Rayshawn is
Yeah.
way too urban.
I feel bad about that
I
though.
didn't
In
wanna-
20, like nowadays, like I'm like, dang, I shouldn't have felt like that. But that's another thing. Figuring out what you had named your kids.
Christian, that's not something to feel guilt or shame over. That's a protective factor. As a Black mother,
Yeah.
you're thinking about what's protective. And again, that's an example of another layer that's not something that we've
Yeah, we don't,
even considered.
we can
Right.
name our whatever we want because we're not worried about them, getting jobs.
Also, I have never met a white Rayshawn. So,
I know you have.
that would have given
I
it
know
away if you would have done a junior.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, what's some more?
What's something you guys would like to change about racial justice or racial injustice?
What do I want to change? I think that, first of all, I would like to change the definition of what it means to be racist in America, because people have this old school 1950s, conception of lynching people. If you do that, you're a racist, But in reality, it's so much deeper than, lynching people or, beating somebody up as a white cop and the person is Black. It's the unconscious,
Yeah.
Right.
latent assumptions and biases that white America holds.
Mhm.
That the privilege there, it causes them to be comfortable and to be okay, with
Comfortable.
with being socialized like that. So the comfortability part is part of the racist, for me, the racism.
Yeah.
So I think for me, maybe we can have better discussions if we can, redefine what it means to be racist, because it looks completely different these days.
Yeah,
It happens in
everywhere.
weirder ways, in more strategic manners. And so you can't go with the old school definition anymore, because that stuff, it's not happening like that anymore. So if we can change the definition of what it means to be racist and focus on this inner work as white Americans, as white privileged people, if you all can do that, to me, we getting somewhere. If we never even started talking about it, that inner work for white America is the beginning of something great, because it's so uncomfortable to look at your biases and assumptions and to look at the fact that you all can be comfortable and protected by, the racist system. That part for me, that's a huge first step.
Well, it's the covert versus overt stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can all identify that, like, the lynching is bad and, like,
Right.
police brutality is bad. And what you're saying is, like, on a day-to-day basis, what you guys experience that we don't even have any understanding of or, again, contribute to,
Yeah.
that's where we start, not
Right.
where the huge violence that we see broadcasted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I became really aware of my privilege probably like 4 years ago. I went to this seminar and I was one of 2 white straight males in the room.
And was that the first time you had ever been a minority?
I grew up in a really white area. Like each classroom had like maybe 1 or 2 token Black kids, and it was just really white. And I've always had white people around me. Our college was really white. And so I've never had to confront anything. But being in that room, and the seminar was about being an activist, and it wasn't specifically about racist activism, but that was a big topic because the lady who was teaching it was, she's a professor at the seminary, and she was part of the Black Lives Matter movement in Ferguson in 2014. So she had a lot of really good insight that made me confront a lot of my covert racism, because I would say I'd be cool with everybody, but I just didn't have experience with everybody. So there's no way that I could be cool with everybody. So I've had to confront a lot of that with myself. And now, like, I still have work to do because, our youth group is a pretty good split of race. But even then, like, a few months ago, a kid lost his phone, and my thought was, I know who stole it, and that's racist for me to know, just based on zero information, that's a race. Like, that's totally racist.
And it's confronting those automatic. I was talking to Cory in counseling. We talk about automatic negative thoughts.
Yep.
That's completely outside of any type of racial,
Right.
conversation. It's just, as humans,
Mm-hmm.
our inherent automatic our thought is negative.
Yeah.
It tends to go right to that, and because we've been conditioned into this privileged society, into this white society, it's like this automatic, like, fight or flight, who can we blame?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns into that very quickly. Yeah. And it's still amazing, like, that you've done the work and you're aware of, in some ways, of a lot of parts of you that have contributed to that narrative, and yet it still is automatic. Like, that shows you how conditioned.
Like, I feel like I've done a lot of work, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've done a lot of inner work, Cory. You've done a lot of inner work, which is huge. Because to me, I would say, man, where is your white guilt coming from? Because to me, you should feel guilty if you've looked at the biases in yourself and the assumptions, and you've seen what racism really is as a white privileged person. If you looked at it in the face and you decided to not change internally, then I can understand where the white guilt will come from. But if you made the decision, like it sounds like you have, to look at it and to change from the inside out, man, you shouldn't have any guilt. Jeni, you shouldn't have any guilt, because you're working towards change from the inside out. And many white people do not even look at it in the first place.
That's true, too.
In the first place.
I think the guilt comes from, for how many years we were sleepwalking, and how many years that
it's shameful.
It's shameful. And we don't need to turn this in.
No,
we don't need to be like the classic white people that are like, can you
I heard it
help
last week
us?
for 10 hours.
Make me feel better.
Make us feel better. But like just friend to friend.
Yeah.
Like, not on live, whatever. Like, there is, I'm pretty proud of who I am. I don't have a lot of shame in my life, but there's a couple areas, and this is it. And it's like, why did I wait so long to do the work? Why was I paying attention to other things? Why did I placate myself and tell myself all of the things white people do? I have black friends. I have 2 black nieces, like, which means nothing. Like, I do, and it's all great.
But you can still be racist.
But
and
you
not be
can
black
still,
racist.
well, and if we want to use, Rayshawn's definition, we can still be contributing to that narrative.
Yes.
We could still be in action within ourselves, and externally you're still part of the problem if you're not part of the solution. And so I wouldn't even say it's guilt. I would say it's shame, which goes deeper. And so we're working through that, because, again, shame doesn't, it keeps us stuck.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do anything good for us, but just being, like, deeply aware of it as white people. I think it's okay speaking for all of the white people right now.
You can do that.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay for us to feel, like, super uncomfortable and a little bit of shame, as long as we don't stay there, and a whole lot of guilt. Like, I think it's okay that we're there right now.
Yeah.
As long as it makes you change from the inside out.
Yes.
Hey, whatever works for you. I'm cool with
Yes.
it.
So,
I think the combination of all of that helps people to change anyway.
Yeah.
Anybody.
It's discomfort. I tell people all the time, like, in my clinical work, people are like, they really think that, like, love is what changes us, and, like, power is what changes us. And I'm telling you, with, like, empirical studies, it shows us that the biggest predictor of change in humans is discomfort. And
I can agree with that.
I
it
believe
is.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
It is. And so it's okay for a lot of your white loved ones right now to be really uncomfortable in working through this. But again, it's wasted energy if we stay there, but it's important that we feel really yucky right now.
I agree with that.
Yeah. We had a question from our audience. Conrad asked, what is a privileged person?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to answer that, you two?
Go ahead, babe.
This y'all, I'm just tapping in.
What is a privileged person? A privileged person to me,
I'll
Conrad. Okay. To me, it would be a person who is, who's been raised or socialized to benefit from the majority group, which would be, white. And to be privileged means to not have to learn the the unspoken rules of what it means to be in this life. You don't have to learn both sides. You're part of the dominant group, and because of that, you're privileged and you're comfortable, and you don't have to look entitled. You don't have to look at certain assumptions, biases. You don't have to empathize with the other necessarily because you're okay. You're okay. You're doing well, and you're protected by that racist system. So if that makes sense, Conrad.
Yeah, it's like a systemic protection.
You're describing the way that I grew up.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly
especially
how.
being a white male.
I didn't know I was making sense. I was trying to.
No, I mean,
We were talking. We have a gay friend who grew up in the church, and we were reconnecting with him. And Jenny and he were talking about the struggles it's like to be in a minority. Like, she's a woman in the church, and he was gay, or he still is gay, and talking about like the struggles they've had in the church. And I came in, I'm like, I haven't had any problem.
We're like, because you're the darling. You're the darling of the church. Cory has arrived. He is a white male.
Everywhere I go, everywhere it's fine for me. This is great.
this is a true fact, Cory. Everything.
That's
right.
privilege.
So Conrad, that's privilege.
Privilege is me. I'm very privileged.
Privilege is me.
Privilege is
Cory, Conrad.
So I'm trying to think of what else.
Let's talk about what's some good examples of diversity and community between different cultures that you guys maybe have seen.
Diversity and
Conrad said, "Thank you. I'm happy." Then I'm not.
He's not.
No, he comes from Cuba.
He's from Cuba.
So break it down, Cory. Break that question down for me.
So, have you seen any good examples in your life of diversity between different cultures, or
examples of people doing things well?
Yes.
I mean, I think like for real, that's how I even got to meet you guys. You know, my father, I grew up, I think that some of my views may be a little different too, because I can admit that I grew up privileged in my own bubble. It's not white privilege.
Right.
It's black privilege.
Black privilege.
Okay?
White privilege.
Black privilege. So, because that means that if I can still get put, you know, somebody might want to try to put me in my place, but then, you know, that privilege makes me want to, but anywho, no. But seriously though, in the sense that, you know, I had well-to-do parents, and I grew up in a, you know, middle-class family.
I would say upper middle class.
Upper middle-class family, thank you. Upper middle-class family.
He's calling you out.
And I was the token black girl in the class.
Okay.
When I grew up in Willoughby, there's way more black people that live out there now than ever, in Mentor and Willoughby, all that. But back then, it just wasn't like that. It was probably me and two other people in a class each, you know. So that's just what it is. And maybe that's how I understood how, maybe that's why I can have white friends and stuff like that, and I don't feel inferior because I had to adapt. My point being is that, you know, we met Larry like that, my dad, and maybe my dad being from New York, a melting pot. My whole family's full of different races. So I don't have like that total view. But anyways, my dad, we came to Erie side. We were the only black family there at the time, I believe, if my memory serves me right. But we learned each other. And it went from that to my parents starting their own church, and then we came together and we fed the homeless. And I went to there was at Erie side, there was like a camp or something like that, or some kind of social or whatever that was. But anyways, we did very well, the black and white church. It came together, and I thought that was a huge thing for me in my life, because it taught me just how to be together. So for me, that's something that I witnessed, and I thought that was great then.
I think that there are people, you know, small groups around the country who are getting somewhere and who are diverse in this thing and having the discussion, really having discussion on both sides. I don't know if it's huge, but there are some people, like the spiritual care department at Cleveland Clinic, awesome. We are having this discussion. It's uncomfortable. And that's why I know we're getting somewhere, because it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
It is very uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I know some churches who are
Having this conversation.
what do you call it?
Cultural.
Multicultural.
Cultural,
I know some churches who are multicultural. They're trying to get somewhere. They have at least, I know a few churches that have at least, have black and white going on, and they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you got some stuff going on. My only thing would be, I think it's very few people
Yeah.
and very few groups
Yeah, it should be more.
that are really, doing this thing and having these types of discussions where it gets uncomfortable, yet we're both invested at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking the truth of what it means to be white in America and black in America. And even though it's uncomfortable, we're still here.
Right.
We have an open ear. So I don't know a lot of people who's
Can
doing
actually do that.
yeah
Feel
can
the
actually do that.
emotion, cry, whatever we might need to do in this room, but we should be able to leave friends. Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because when you say diversity, Jeni and Cory, I know a lot of diverse groups and people doing different things, diversity wise.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen us come together
Yeah.
and we can sit in the same room. We can kind of do that well, but this stuff, I don't know too much of this going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
heard a few stories though.
Yeah, I don't know a lot.
I don't know.
But that's just me. So
And
yeah,
it seems like the coming together is temporary. Like
Yeah.
when the churches come together, it's for like a special thing. It's not consistent.
That's true. It's true.
yeah, and it's actually a good reason why we can't be consistent, because black and white is two different realities. And if we don't talk about, what those realities are like, and if they can't be honored and we can't share the same space,
Mm-hmm.
then there's not really a level of trust and vulnerability. So why are we going to consistently be like this in the first place?
Right.
Well, and that's it, the idea of honoring, I think, is really important, because I've seen a lot of white people posting things about, they don't see color, and you do though. And when you don't validate another person's heritage and culture, you're disrespecting the humanity. Like, we're all at the end of the day made, Imago Dei, image of God, very, very important. However, I'm white and you're black, and like that's the way God made us.
That makes me sick to hear
Yes.
people say white and black. I don't see color. You're lying. And
You're lying.
Number one, that is part of the issue. That's part of the racist
Yes.
system to keep
Yes.
you saying that, because number one, you do. Number two, you're saying you don't see it because you're uncomfortable.
Because you're uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so I think that we've figured out all of the solutions to everything. I think that it is that we don't want to join churches, and we don't really want to be diverse because it's really uncomfortable, and everything that has to be discussed with different cultures in mind.
Wow.
And that could take forever, and that's uncomfortable, and we could mess up and offend each other, and then what would we do then? And so like
That's
with
good.
worship or with
That's good.
liturgy, or you know what I mean? So that's why, I mean, it goes back to discomfort, and it goes back to the leaders in our ministry and our congregants and our friends and even our loved ones, like just not wanting to put up with it. It's just a lot of hard soul-searching work. And until people are willing to do that, and to do it every Sunday and every Wednesday and every Saturday night and every conversation, it's not going to happen.
But,
That's true.
Jeni and Cory, when you got the Bible in your hand, what could happen is that the word could potentially reinforce its racist system in the first place. When you have God on your side and you bring God into this debate, people usually reach for their God somehow and justify these views. So for me, church could be a stumbling block in this discussion, because that can be a crunch too, because it's comfortable to run to God and to prayer and to just, do that type of work, but you're still not doing the self work.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and validating other people's pain in the best way you can. I mean, I will never know what it's like to be a black mother. I will never know what it's like to be a black male. I won't ever do that. And yet, how can we validate that and work toward that? And as white people, acknowledge, stay in the yuck for a little bit.
Yeah.
And acknowledge, you know, what we've done in choosing to be ignorant for so many years. We could have chosen this 15 years ago to work through, and we didn't.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if you guys have any closing remarks. We only have a minute left.
Yeah, they're cutting us off. We've got 1 minute left.
Instagram.
They cut you off.
Instagram. Yeah.
Guys, oh my God, I really appreciate this. I think we've covered, you know, a good part of the terrain.
We've fixed everything.
Listen, somebody write a book and we'll split the proceeds 4 different ways. I'm just saying, we did the darn thing tonight. Let us know, you know, if you want to keep this going. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
This is awesome.
This is wonderful.
Guys.
Yeah.
Again,
Thank you guys for
tuning in. We are actual friends in real life.
We are.
And my road dogs.
I did not ask these people to come on here. They did not ask us to come on there.
No, we actually do love each other and have done ministry together.
Yes. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for doing this.
We
love you.
Love you all. And let's
all right, we'll talk soon.
Talk to you soon.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Cory, yes, I ain't got. See, you hit